The roar of the crowd was a physical thing, a wave that crashed over Mohamed Salah as he stood on the Anfield pitch, the emerald green a stark contrast to the swirling vortex of uncertainty in his gut. Thousands of fans, a sea of red, chanted his name, their voices a blend of adoration and anxiety. Another season was in the books, but the future felt heavier than it ever had before. His contract with Liverpool was ticking down like a time bomb, and despite his monumental contributions, no new offer had materialized. As he walked towards the tunnel, the media descended like a pack of wolves. "Mo, are you staying at Liverpool? Are the rumors about Saudi Arabia true?" The questions flew at him, sharp and insistent. He forced a polite smile, the kind he'd perfected over years of scrutiny. "The future is always a mystery," he replied, the carefully chosen words doing little to quell the brewing storm of speculation. Back in the locker room, the camaraderie was tinged with a nervous energy. Teammates like his good friend, Jack Alexander-Arnold, clapped him on the back, offering quiet reassurances. But behind the forced smiles and the casual banter, Salah knew the truth. Whispers had been circulating, insidious little murmurs, that Liverpool was quietly, subtly, preparing for life without him. The thought sent a shiver down his spine, a chill that had nothing to do with the cool English air. The next morning, the headlines screamed. Social media exploded. Some outlets praised his legacy, hailing him as a Liverpool icon, while others, crueler and more pointed, hinted that it was time for him to move on, to make way for fresh blood. The online debates were fierce, brutal even. Was Salah still at his peak, the dazzling force of nature he once was? Or was he clinging on, desperately trying to recapture past glories? His heart ached with a new kind of loneliness. Meanwhile, offers from the Saudi Pro League began to flood in. The numbers were staggering, astronomical, beyond anything Salah had ever imagined earning. Yet, a knot of unease tightened in his stomach. Was money, even mountains of it, enough to define the next chapter of his life? He loved winning, loved the sport of soccer. He scrolled through messages from his closest advisors, the weight of the impending decision pressing down on him like a physical burden. Would Liverpool finally step up, show him the respect he felt he deserved? Or was it time to embrace a new challenge, a new adventure, in a land far from the familiar roar of the cop? The news spread like wildfire. Reports, each more breathless than the last, emerged that Saudi clubs were preparing an unprecedented, record-shattering offer for Mohamed Salah. The sums mentioned were mind-boggling, dwarfing even the salaries of the biggest European stars. Headlines shrieked, Salah set for record-breaking move to Saudi Arabia. Sitting in his luxurious Liverpool home, a home filled with memories and the echoes of laughter, Salah scrolled through social media. The reactions were a mixed bag. Some fans begged him to stay, their pleas tinged with desperation. Others, more pragmatic, acknowledged that football was, at its core, a business. But what caught his eye, what truly ignited a fire within him, was a heated debate on a British sports show. "He's had a great run here, but let's be honest, he's past his prime," Richard, a former player turned commentator, declared with a dismissive wave of his hand. "If I were him, I'd take the money and run while I still could." Another analyst, Mark, a younger, more data-driven voice, countered, "Are you kidding? He's still world-class. Liverpool would be insane to let him go. They should be doing everything to keep him." Salah leaned back, his jaw tight. Was that how people saw him now? A fading star, desperate for one last massive payday? The thought stung, a sharp, unexpected pain. He had worked and toiled, sacrificing his body and life. Later that day, his agent, Steve, called, his voice buzzing with excitement. "Mo, they're serious. Al Hilal is ready to make you the highest-paid player in history. More than Ronaldo, more than Neymar. It is enough to change everything, for all time." The offer was life-altering, a golden ticket to a future of unimaginable security for him and his family. But Salah wasn't just thinking about money. He lived for the competition, the thrill of the game, the roar of the crowd. He loved the feel of the ball at his feet, the electric surge of adrenaline as he weaved through defenders, the sweet satisfaction of scoring a crucial goal. He did not want to give that all up. That evening, as he arrived at training, his teammates, like Sam, cast knowing glances his way. They'd all seen the headlines, read the speculation. "Come on, Mo. You're not actually considering it, are you?" Jack asked, a playful grin masking a hint of genuine concern. Salah chuckled, the sound hollow even to his own ears. "I haven't decided anything yet," he replied. But deep down, a clock was ticking. Time was running out. He knew he had to make a choice, a decision that would define his legacy, not just as a footballer, but as a man. He took a deep breath to steady himself. Mohamed Salah had learned to tune out the noise, the constant barrage of rumors and speculation that swirled around him like a persistent fog. He'd seen his name dragged through countless transfer sagas, exaggerated debates, and outright fabrications. But this time, something felt different, more personal, more violating. The morning started like any other. He woke early, went through his rigorous training routine, spent precious time with his family. But as he scrolled through his phone, a video clip stopped him cold. It was a segment from a Saudi sports program, featuring a well-known club owner, a man named Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson was speaking with a smug, self-satisfied smirk, his tone dripping with condescension. "Salah? He's finished in Europe," he scoffed. "He's aging. No top club wants to pay his wages anymore. If he comes here, it's because he has no other choice. Let's be real. He's only coming for the money." Salah froze, his blood turning to ice. The words echoed in his mind, sharp and cruel. The clip was already viral, spreading across social media like a contagion. Fans erupted, some defending him fiercely, calling the comments disrespectful and outrageous. Others, fueled by the club owner's arrogance, used it as ammunition to argue that Salah was, indeed, past his prime. Within minutes, his phone was buzzing incessantly. His teammates sent messages of support. "Did you see this? Ignore the noise, Mo." Even former players, legends of the game, reached out, their messages filled with outrage. For the first time in years, Salah felt something deeper than frustration. It was a visceral anger, a burning sense of injustice. Someone who had never laced up a pair of boots, who had never felt the pressure of a packed stadium, was publicly dismissing his legacy, reducing his years of dedication and sacrifice to a mere transaction. It will all come to those who wait. Later that day, he arrived at Liverpool's training ground, his mind miles away. The words of Mr. Henderson kept replaying in his head, a relentless, taunting loop. After practice, he sat down for an interview with a British journalist, Ms. Thompson, a woman known for her sharp questions and insightful commentary. He knew the question was coming. "What do you make of the comments that you're only leaving Europe because no one wants you anymore?" Ms. Thompson asked, her gaze unwavering. Salah smiled slightly, a flicker of steel in his eyes. He paused, letting the silence hang heavy in the air. Then, with a quiet, unwavering confidence, he said, "People talk, but the truth is, they don't know what's coming." The interview went live that evening, and the world took notice. Salah wasn't just making a decision. He was preparing for something bigger, something profound. And soon, everyone would see exactly what he meant. Everyone would know his heart. and desire. Mohamed Salah had always been a man of action, not words. He preferred to let his performances on the pitch do the talking. But this time, after the Saudi club owner's dismissive comments, something shifted within him. Instead of reacting with a fiery retort, he chose silence. For days he vanished from the public eye. No social media posts, no cryptic tweets, no Instagram stories from training. He simply disappeared. And that silence, more than any statement, set the football world ablaze. He wanted to scream, but kept his composure. Journalists scrambled to interpret his silence, their speculation running wild. Some claimed he was already in advanced negotiations with Saudi clubs, the deal practically done. Others suggested he was holding out, waiting for Liverpool to finally, belatedly, offer him a contract worthy of his talent. The lack of answers only fueled the fire, turning the debate into an inferno. At Anfield, his teammates tried to act normal, but the tension was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. During training sessions, some players would steal glances at Salah, as if waiting for him to say something, to break the agonizing silence. Even the usually unflappable manager, Coach Miller, seemed unusually subdued when asked about Salah's future in press conferences. One evening, sitting in his quiet home, Salah watched as British television pundits dissected his situation, analyzing him as if he were already gone. "Let's be honest," Richard, the former player, said with a sigh. "If Liverpool really wanted to keep him, they'd have renewed his contract by now." Another pundit, Mr. Johnson, added, "And if Salah really wanted to stay, he would have said something." His silence speaks volumes. Salah switched off the TV, his jaw clenched. The world was waiting for an answer, clamoring for a decision. But he wasn't ready to give one. Not yet. Not on their terms. He needed to feel in control, to be calm. Meanwhile, in Saudi Arabia, Mr. Henderson, the businessman who had mocked him, was growing increasingly confident. In another televised interview, he doubled down on his earlier remarks, his arrogance reaching new heights. "He's silent because he knows I'm right," he declared with a smug grin. "No top club in Europe is fighting for him. He's coming here, and he knows it." The words stung, not because Salah doubted himself, but because he knew millions of people were watching, judging, deciding whether or not he was still one of the best, still worthy of respect. A pain ran through his very being. At the same time, Liverpool's fan base was splintering. Some begged the club to renew his contract at any cost, their loyalty unwavering. Others, more cynical, questioned whether his best days were behind him, whether he was worth the astronomical sums being discussed. Through it all, Salah remained silent. But behind the scenes, he was preparing, meticulously and deliberately. He called his agent, Steve, and requested a meeting with Liverpool's board of directors. He had something to say, something important. The moment of truth was approaching, and when he finally spoke, the world would listen. It was an uneasy calm before the storm. Mohamed Salah walked into Liverpool's headquarters with a calm, almost serene expression. But beneath the surface, a fierce determination burned. He had spent the last few days reflecting, training harder than ever, pushing himself to the absolute limit, preparing for this moment, this confrontation. The club had finally requested a meeting, something that should have happened weeks, even months ago. Inside the boardroom, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Executives sat across from him, their faces carefully neutral, unreadable. His agent, Steve, seated beside him, had already made his position crystal clear. Salah wanted clarity. Was Liverpool willing to extend his contract, to offer him terms that reflected his value to the club? Or was it truly time to move on? The club's response was polite, but infuriatingly non-committal. They respected his contributions, they said, but they were evaluating their options. No guarantees, no firm offer, no concrete indication of their intentions. It was a corporate dance, a carefully choreographed evasion. Salah nodded, absorbing the non-answer. He wasn't naive. He understood that football was a business, a ruthless, often cutthroat industry. But after everything he had given to the club, after the goals, the trophies, the unwavering loyalty, this hesitation, this lack of commitment, felt like a silent farewell, a polite but firm push towards the exit. He had bled for the club. This was not right. As he left the meeting, his agent's phone buzzed. Another offer had arrived from Saudi Arabia. The numbers were even higher this time, an unimaginable sum that would make him, without a doubt, the highest-paid player in the history of the sport. That night, Salah sat alone in his home, staring at the contract proposal, the numbers blurring before his eyes. The choice seemed stark, simple even. Stay in Europe, fight for his legacy, prove his doubters wrong, but potentially sacrifice a fortune. Or take the most lucrative deal of his career, secure his family's future for generations to come, but risk being seen as a mercenary, a player who had chosen money over glory. Meanwhile, in the media, the debate raged on, a relentless storm of speculation and opinion. Journalists, former players, even his own teammates weighed in, their voices adding to the cacophony. Then, another bombshell dropped. Mr. Henderson, the same Saudi club owner who had dismissed Salah weeks ago, appeared on television once again. This time, his arrogance was breathtaking. "Enough waiting," he declared, his voice dripping with confidence. "He will come. He knows there's no other choice." Salah clenched his jaw, his hands tightening into fists as he watched. For the first time in his illustrious career, he felt the world doubting him, questioning his motives, his ability, his heart, and that's when he knew. His next move wouldn't just be about football. It would be about something far more profound. It would be about proving something, not just to the world, but to himself. He took a deep, steadying breath and picked up his phone. It was time. Time to make his decision. Time to silence the doubters. Time to reclaim his narrative. The day after his tense, ultimately unsatisfying meeting with Liverpool's board, Mohamed Salah woke before dawn. He laced up his running shoes, the familiar ritual a small comfort in the midst of the swirling uncertainty. He stepped outside into the cool morning air, the silence broken only by the rhythmic pounding of his feet on the pavement. Running had always been his sanctuary, his way of thinking, of processing, of clearing his mind. With each stride, he replayed the events of the past few weeks, the club's maddening hesitation, the astronomical Saudi offer, the relentless media frenzy, and above all, the arrogant, dismissive certainty of Mr. Henderson. By the time he returned home, sweat dripping down his face, his lungs burning, he knew one thing with absolute clarity. He wasn't going to be forced into a decision by anyone. He would choose his future, his path, on his own terms. He would not be bullied or manipulated. He would write his own story. The football world had reached a boiling point, a fever pitch of anticipation and speculation. Every sports network, every newspaper, every online forum was consumed by the Salah saga. In Saudi Arabia, clubs were growing restless, impatient. They had presented their final offer, a package that included a record-breaking salary, lucrative sponsorship deals, even ownership stakes in various businesses. They wanted an answer, and they wanted it now. In England, Liverpool fans were torn, their emotions a tangled mess of hope and despair. Some urged the club to do whatever it took to keep him, to break the bank, to offer him a contract for life. Others, more resigned, believed his best years were behind him, that it was time to move on, to rebuild. Meanwhile, the European giants, the powerhouses of the game, were lurking in the background, like sharks circling their prey. Rumors swirled that clubs like Real Madrid and PSG were monitoring the situation closely, ready to pounce if Salah decided to remain in Europe, to continue competing at the highest level. And then, Salah made a move that no one, absolutely no one, expected. Instead of releasing a carefully worded statement, instead of holding a press conference in Liverpool or Saudi Arabia, he went completely, utterly silent. No press conferences, no social media posts, no cryptic messages. Nothing. The world was desperate for answers, craving information. But Salah refused to be rushed. He trained harder than ever, pushing himself to the limit, blocking out the noise, the speculation, the pressure. Every session was intense. Every sprint had a purpose. He wasn't just preparing for a season. He was preparing for a statement, a declaration. In the locker room, his teammates sensed the shift, the subtle change in his demeanor. Virgil, one of his closest friends at the club, pulled him aside. "Mo, are you really leaving?" he asked, his voice low, his eyes filled with concern. Salah smiled, a tight, enigmatic smile, but didn't answer. Jack continued, "But if you go for the right reasons. Don't let anyone else dictate your future." Salah nodded, the words resonating deeply. That was exactly what he intended to do. He would choose his path, guided by his own values, his own ambitions, his own sense of what was right. One evening, as he sat in his home, his mother called. She rarely discussed football with him. She was more concerned about his well-being, his happiness. But this time, her voice was different, filled with a quiet strength. "I see them talking about you on the news," she said, her voice tinged with a hint of sadness, "saying you are only choosing between money and legacy." Salah listened in silence, his heart aching. "But I know you, son," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "You are more than just a footballer. You are an example to so many. You represent something bigger." Her words stayed with him long after the call ended, a comforting balm on his frayed nerves. This wasn't just about a contract or a transfer or a record-breaking payday. This was about what he stood for, what he represented, the values he held dear. It was about inspiring millions, showing them that anything is possible with hard work, dedication, and an unwavering belief in oneself. And then, the announcement came, seemingly out of nowhere. Salah would hold a press conference, not in Liverpool, not in Saudi Arabia, but in his hometown in Egypt. The decision stunned everyone. Instead of choosing a global stage, a platform filled with international media, he was returning to his roots, to the place where his journey began. The venue was set in a grand, open-air space in Cairo, surrounded by thousands of Egyptian fans, their faces alight with excitement and anticipation. Journalists from all corners of the world gathered, their pens poised, their cameras ready, eager to hear what he had to say, to finally get an answer to the question that had consumed the football world for weeks. As he walked onto the stage, the crowd erupted in a deafening roar, a wave of sound that washed over him, filling him with a sense of belonging, of purpose. He looked out over the sea of faces, his people, his supporters, the people who had believed in him from the very beginning. He took a deep breath, the weight of the moment pressing down on him, and then he finally spoke. "I have heard everything," he said, his voice clear and strong, resonating across the vast space. "The speculation, the doubt, the talk that my best days are behind me." He paused, letting the words sink in, letting the silence amplify the anticipation. "I have always played football for more than just trophies, more than just money," he continued, his voice gaining intensity. "I play because I love the game, because I love the challenge, because I love to prove people wrong." The crowd fell silent, hanging on to every word, every syllable. "That is why I have made my decision," he declared, his gaze sweeping across the sea of faces. The moment had arrived. The world held its breath, waiting, anticipating, desperate for the answer. Salah looked directly at the cameras, his eyes filled with a quiet, unwavering intensity. "I will not be going to Saudi Arabia," he announced, his voice ringing with conviction. Gasps echoed across the venue, a collective intake of breath. Journalists scrambled to type their headlines, their fingers flying across their keyboards. Mr. Henderson, the Saudi businessman who had mocked him, who had dismissed him so casually, would have to eat his words. His arrogance had been shattered. "But," Salah continued, his voice dropping slightly, "I will not be staying at Liverpool either." The shock deepened, spreading like ripples in a pond. Even his own fans, the people who had adored him for years, had expected him to either extend his contract or take the record-breaking deal. But now, no one, absolutely no one, knew what was coming next. "I have chosen to continue my career in Europe," Salah declared, his voice rising again, filled with passion and determination. "Because I am not done. I still have more to give, more to prove, at the highest level." The stadium exploded into cheers, a thunderous roar of approval and excitement. Within minutes, social media was on fire, a global eruption of reactions. Mo Salah rejects Saudi money. Liverpool loses its king. Where will Salah go next? Back in Saudi Arabia, Mr. Henderson, the businessman who had so confidently predicted Salah's arrival, refused to comment, his arrogance deflated, his reputation tarnished. At Liverpool, the board of directors scrambled to reassess their decision, their faces etched with regret and confusion. Had they made a colossal mistake, letting him go so easily? Had they underestimated his value, not just as a player, but as a symbol? And across Europe, the elite clubs, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, PSG, and others, began preparing their offers, their checkbooks open, ready to battle for his signature. Salah was back on the market, a free agent, and now everyone, absolutely everyone, wanted him. Later that night, as Salah sat with his closest friends and family, surrounded by the warmth of their love and support, he felt something he hadn't felt in weeks: peace. He had made his decision, not out of fear, not out of pressure, but on his own terms, guided by his own values, his own conscience. He had proven that he was not just a player chasing money, not just a fading star clinging to past glories. He was still Mohamed Salah, a force to be reckoned with, a player with a burning desire to compete, to win, to inspire. And he wasn't finished yet, not by a long shot. The world was still reeling, trying to process the seismic events that had just unfolded. Mohamed Salah had rejected the biggest payday in football history, a fortune beyond most people's wildest dreams. He had turned his back on Saudi Arabia's riches and refused to extend his stay at Liverpool, the club that had made him a global icon. But he still hadn't revealed one crucial detail: where he was going next. The suspense was agonizing, the speculation relentless. Journalists, pundits, and fans dissected every possible scenario, their theories ranging from the plausible to the utterly absurd. Some claimed he was heading to Real Madrid, eager to finally claim the Champions League title that had eluded him since his heartbreaking injury in the 2018 final. Others believed PSG would make him the centerpiece of their post-Mbappé era, the face of a new, ambitious project. A few even suggested a shocking move to Bayern Munich, a club known for its discipline, its structure, and its relentless pursuit of excellence. But Salah remained silent, a master of suspense, enjoying the chaos he had unleashed. Behind closed doors, his agent, Steve, was fielding calls non-stop, his phone practically melting from the heat of the inquiries. Real Madrid's representatives wanted a meeting, their message urgent and direct. We need a star to replace Benzema. Salah is the perfect fit. PSG sent a private jet, inviting Salah to Paris for negotiations. Their owner promised him a central role in the club's future, a blank check, and the chance to build a legacy in the French capital. Bayern Munich, known for their fiscal prudence, were reportedly willing to break their wage structure, to shatter their own records, to secure his signature. Salah listened. He considered each option carefully, weighing the pros and cons, the potential rewards and risks. But before making any decision, before committing to any club, he wanted to do something first, something deeply personal. The day after his dramatic announcement in Egypt, Salah arrived at Anfield, his beloved Anfield, one last time. The stadium was empty, eerily silent, but the memories were everywhere, vivid and powerful. He remembered the first goal he scored there, the roar of the crowd, the feeling of belonging. He relived the epic comeback against Barcelona, the night when Anfield became a cauldron of noise and passion. He recalled the Champions League final victory, the culmination of years of hard work and sacrifice. He thought of the Premier League title, the moment when Liverpool finally ended their long, agonizing wait for glory. He stood in the center circle, staring at the empty stands, his heart filled with a mixture of gratitude and sadness. This was the place that had made him a legend, the place where he had forged unforgettable bonds with teammates and fans. But all legends, all stories, eventually reach their conclusion. Taking out his phone, he typed out a message, a heartfelt farewell to the club and its supporters. No matter what happens next, I will always be grateful for my time at Liverpool. Thank you for everything, YNWA. Within minutes, the post had millions of likes, a testament to the love and respect he had earned during his time at Anfield. That evening, Salah boarded a plane, his destination a closely guarded secret. Fans tracked flight paths, desperate for any clue, any hint of his next move. Theories flooded the internet, each more outlandish than the last. And then, the breaking news alert came, a digital thunderclap that reverberated across the globe. Mohamed Salah has chosen his next club. But the club's name wasn't in the headline. Not yet. The official announcement would come tomorrow, and the world, the entire footballing world, would be watching, waiting, breathless with anticipation. The tension and drama were at an all-time high. The football world was at a standstill, frozen in time. Every major sports network, every journalist, every fan, holding their breath, waiting for one thing, and one thing only: Mohamed Salah's next move. His rejection of Saudi Arabia's record-breaking offer had already stunned everyone, defying all expectations. His farewell to Liverpool had left an entire fan base emotional, heartbroken, but also deeply appreciative of his contributions. But now, the final piece of the puzzle remained, the missing element that would complete the picture. Where would he go? Social media was flooded with theories, a swirling vortex of speculation and conjecture. Some fans were convinced he had already signed for Real Madrid, their dreams fueled by the romantic notion of him finally lifting the Champions League trophy in the famous white shirt. Others speculated that PSG had secured his signature, offering him a kingdom in Paris, the chance to become the undisputed star of a team desperate for European glory. A few even believed he might make a sensational return to Italy, to Roma, the club where he first made his name, a move that would be driven by sentimentality and a desire to recapture past glories. But Salah remained silent, a master of intrigue, letting the speculation swirl around him like a storm. Then, at exactly 8:00 p.m. Cairo time, his agent, Steve, posted a single cryptic tweet. Tomorrow, 12 p.m. No context, no hints, no clues. Just a time, a moment when the world would finally know the truth. When the clock struck noon the following day, The world held its breath, collectively, globally. A video appeared on Salah's official social media pages, a meticulously crafted, emotionally charged production. It opened with a montage of his career, a highlight reel of his greatest moments, the breathtaking goals, the dazzling dribbles, the unforgettable celebrations, the trophies lifted high in triumph. The soundtrack swelled, building to a crescendo. Then, the screen faded to black. Words appeared, stark white against the darkness. A new chapter begins. And finally, the club logo, the emblem of his chosen destination, flashed onto the screen. Salah had made his choice. The mystery was solved. Within seconds, the internet exploded, a digital supernova of reactions. Fans celebrated. Others were devastated. Rival clubs reacted, their statements a mixture of admiration and disappointment. The world had its answer, and just like that, with a single video, a carefully orchestrated announcement, Mohamed Salah had rewritten his story on his own terms. He had defied expectations, silenced his doubters, and chosen his own path. The next era of his career had begun, a new adventure, a new challenge, a new opportunity to create history. Mohamed Salah's journey is a testament to resilience, passion, and the unwavering belief in one's own path. He didn't let money define his career. He didn't let doubters dictate his fate, and he didn't let pressure force his hand. He made his choice, his own choice, guided by his values, his ambition, and his unwavering commitment to excellence. Now, we want to hear from you. What did you think of Salah's decision? Do you believe he made the right move, choosing his legacy over a potentially record-breaking payday? Or should he have chosen a different path? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one, and your insights are valuable to us. And if you love stories that inspire, stories that keep you on the edge of your seat, stories that celebrate the triumph of the human spirit, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There's so much more coming, so many more incredible stories to tell, and you won't want to miss a single one. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you. Remember, you can do anything you set your mind on. Never let anyone steal your dream.